We are poetry in action. We help the sunlight shine and the moon dust settle, the waterways flow. We are divine expression with or without breath. We have a unique soul's melody that we can choose to sleep with, walk with, or dance with. We are as endless as a lightweight feather in the wind. Landing is fleeting and temporary. Our being has the potential to soar within each moment. The depths of our inner selves expand into infinity. We sometimes forget that we had a dream to be. And here we are. The love and grace of Spirit surrounds us and flows through each of us for eternity. And so it is.
So we get to sing the kids up with something that they co-wrote here. So big on the ahs and big on the harmonies and loves, okay? Everybody agreement on that one? Yeah. Okay. Harmony had a last name. Of course, you know her first. Won't leave you hanging. It's right here in the very first verse. Her last name would be love. Now there are two words so true. The root of our community, grounding me and you with harmony and love. And love can feel broken and seem beyond repair. But there's never-ending hope, like a puppy waiting home. We feel it here every Sunday, and it's everywhere we roam. We've got harmony and love. Feel that blessed energy, love and harmony, harmony and love. Oh, sweet peace from so deep and oh so high above. We've got harmony and love. We got harmony and love. Yes, Harmony has a last name, and now you know her first. We told you all about it. Now here's the very last verse. Open hearts and joyful tears, friendships oh so fierce. Love is this family, love is friends, love is love, and it never ends. Love and harmony, harmony and love. Oh, sweet peace from come so deep and oh so high above. Oh sweet peace, oh so deep and oh so high above. We've got harmony and love, love. We got harmony and love, love. Louder, John. Harmony and love, love. We got harmony and love, love. We've got harmony and love, love.
Thank you so much, Steve. That was awesome and super fun for us to sing along. Good morning, everybody. So you've heard me planting seeds the last couple of weeks. I want to remind you that on August 26th, we will have a volunteer information and teacher training for anybody who's interested in joining Youth and Family Ministries. We have a lot of fun together. We have 4 different age groups, so people who are potentially interested, you can choose what age youth you'd like to work with. We ask people to consider volunteering for 1 Sunday a month for a 6-month time period, so you can kind of get a feel for it. And Brian's going to share a little bit about his experience with you today.
Good morning. I'd just like to encourage you that if you feel like you don't have enough kid energy in your life, this is a great opportunity. You know, kids haven't reached that point in their life where they've unlearned all of the stuff we come into the world knowing. Like you watch little kids and on the playground playing, one falls down, all of them gather around and want to give hugs and make sure they're okay. It's natural that we love each other. We kind of unlearn those things as we become adults. Part of what I really love working with the uniteens is those uniteens are kind of that middle school age in that middle place where their imaginations are still as active as little kids, their minds and their wisdom is still intact. And yet they're becoming adults, so their thinking mind is really starting to be active and ask those harder questions in life. And it's in that place where I see so much real knowledge and wisdom be formed that I learn way more from them than I ever get the opportunity to teach them. So I would encourage you, if you've got that little nudge inside of you that's saying, man, I wish I had more kids in my life, here's your chance, get in.
Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Thank you for being our family. Thank you for being our friend. Thank you for blessing and teaching us. God bless you. Amen.
So thankful for our teachers and our kids. Welcome to Unity in Lynnwood. Good morning. We're so glad that each and every one of you is here at Unity in Lynnwood. You can know that our doors are open to you, our arms are open to you, our hearts are open to you. Wonderfully unique you, wonderfully imperfect you, wonderfully quirky you. Anyone quirky here? Anyone? Yes. We love that about you. It inspires us, really. We're so glad you're here. If you would like to step into deeper levels of our community, there's opportunities to do so. This is Sacred Service Sunday, and we teach service as a sacred discipline in Unity. And here to say a little bit more about that is our Associate Minister, the Reverend Nina Clark.
Wow. Gotta love that. So how many of you were at our picnic last Sunday? Did we have a good time or what? What a celebration of community that was. And for anyone who might have been here yesterday for our work party, the grounds look awesome. If you were there yesterday, would you stand up so we can appreciate you for a moment? Thank you. Thank you. So on Service Sunday last month, I started a story about a monastery, and then I left you hanging because I saved the end for the Community Connection Workshop that Michelle Focus and I facilitated. Well, I know that you've not been able to sleep for the wanting of the end of that story, so I'll go ahead and tell you the end so that you can get a good night's rest. And just in case you've forgotten the details of the story, after all, it has been a month, we'll begin at the beginning, which, as they say, is a very good place to start. So, the story I shared was about a monastery that had fallen upon hard times. It was once a beautiful place, well maintained by visitors who were inspired to keep the buildings and grounds well maintained whenever they came to picnic or meditate on the grounds. But at the time of this story, there were only 5 monks left, the abbot and 4 others. The monastery was in poor repair, and the few people who visited no longer volunteered to help keep things beautiful and tidy. And the monks could not do all the work by themselves. In the deep woods surrounding the monastery, there was a little hut that a wise rabbi occasionally used for a hermitage. It occurred to the abbot that a visit to the rabbi might result in some advice that could save his monastery. The rabbi welcomed the abbot to his hut, but when the abbot explained the reason for his visit, the rabbi replied, "I know how it is. It's the same in my town. Almost no one comes to the synagogue anymore." So the old abbot and the old rabbi wept together. Then they read from the Torah and spoke of deep things. When the time came for the abbot to leave, they embraced each other. "I have enjoyed our time together," the abbot said, "but I have failed in my purpose for coming here. Is there nothing you can tell me that would help me save my dying order?" "I'm sorry," the rabbi responded. "I have no advice to give." But just as the abbot turned to leave, the rabbi said, "But I can tell you that the Messiah is among you." When the abbot returned to the monastery, his fellow monks gathered around him. What did the rabbi say? The rabbi said something very mysterious. He said that the Messiah is among us. I'm not really sure what he meant. In the days that followed, the old monks wondered at the significance of the rabbi's words. The Messiah is one of us? Could he possibly have meant one of us monks? And if so, which one? And he did say among us, so perhaps he meant cook who travels from the village, or our gardener. They are also among us. Of course, the rabbi didn't mean me. He couldn't have possibly meant me, but supposing he did. As they contemplated, the old monks began to treat themselves and each other with extraordinary respect on the chance that one among them might be the Messiah. And now, when people come to visit the monastery, they find that a community has grown up in the forests and the meadows around the monastery. You see, as the monks changed their consciousness about themselves and each other and began to treat each other with a profound loving kindness and respect, this consciousness seemed to radiate out from them and permeate the atmosphere of the monastery and the surrounding grounds. Visitors who came to visit the monastery, to picnic on its tiny lawn, to wander along some of its paths, to meditate in the dilapidated chapel and explore the surrounding woodlands and meadows, they felt this energy. There was something strangely compelling about it. Hardly knowing why, they began to come back more often to the monastery, and they began to see each other in their surroundings with fresh eyes and to notice each other. Glances of recognition were shared, and then smiles, and then family groups began to interact and friendships formed. They brought their friends to this special place, and their friends brought their friends. And as this consciousness of love and respect continued to bloom, to the monks' wide-eyed but highly welcome surprise, the visitors began to voluntarily make repairs to the old buildings and grounds, fixing doors and laying brick, replacing floors and washing windows. Some chose to care for the existing plants, pruning back dead limbs and planting new trees and flowers. An abandoned vegetable garden was revitalized, and the monks began to feed those who came. Slowly, the buildings and grounds began to glow with the loving care of the growing community, reflecting the consciousness sparked by the words of the wise rabbi. Some of the younger men who came to visit the monastery started to have deep conversations with the old monks. It wasn't long before one asked if he could join them. Then another joined, and another. And within a few years, the monastery was once again thriving, and thanks to the rabbi's gift, a vibrant center of light and spirituality in the realm. The end. This story reminds me of us, a community of people who treat each other with loving kindness and respect, who care about each other, and who, out of a deep feeling of connection, are birthing something new and magnificent. There, now you can sleep. And take heed, for our own rabbi is here with us today, and I know him to be wise indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Nina. What wonderful words about service, and also just a great setup for what I'd like to talk to you about prayer and an invitation for that. That's the consciousness of the monks that saw with fresh eyes those who were in front of them, the goodness within them, the value within them, the potential of each other. This is what we do in what we call prayer for each other. In the seat backs in front of you, there are prayer slips. And if you have a situation in your life that you would like to partner with our chaplains in prayer about, just go ahead and write that situation out. It may be something you're struggling with or something that you were completely joyful about and you really want the chaplains to join you in that. Put that in the offering basket as it goes by later in the service. Also, anytime during the week, you can call our confidential prayer line or leave a prayer request on our website. And of course, if you would like a time of personal prayer this morning, you can come to the front of our sanctuary on either side, and you can meet with one of our prayer chaplains today. They would love to meet you in a time of personal prayer, seeing the good in each of you. Our prayer chaplains are here this morning. They're wearing purple prayer stoles around their neck, and if we could just recognize them, I'd like to and have them stand. Yes? Thank you. Thank you for your service to us. One particular form of prayer we use at Unity is that which is called affirmative prayer, and that is where we affirm the truth of any situation, the truth of divine wholeness in any particular circumstance in our lives. And we have today's affirmation on the screen right here, and as I say this, I'm going to say it once, and let's just take it in. This is an affirmation of boldness. It's an affirmation of faith and confidence. And when we say it with that, we can meet our life in a new way ahead. I'm going to say it once, and then I'm going to invite you, if you'd like, to join with me. That which resides within me is ample to all that stands before me. That is the truth. If you'd like, you can stand. And together. That which resides within me is ample to all that stands before me. And so it is. Let's take a few minutes to greet each other, and then we'll come back for some music.
Well, let the sun shine, let the dandelions grow, let the hummingbirds hum, turn that ringer off your phone. Let the rain drop, let the frogs croak, let the bees buzz, let that laundry sit and soak. Instead, just look into your loved one's eyes. Take a good long look or two. So much we can set aside and just enjoy the view. Just enjoy the view. Let the moon rise, let the crickets crick. Let the wind howl and blow, you don't need to manage any of it. Let the mercury drop, let the flakes float down. Let it snow deep and drift, it can cover all this town. So won't you take a look into your heart, take a real deep look or two. That's where your world of love resides, where you'll find your own true you. Let the sun shine, let the dandelions grow, let the hummingbirds hum, turn that ringer off your phone. Let the rains drop, let the frogs croak, let the bees buzz, let the laundry sit and soak. Instead, just look into your loved one's eyes. Take a good long look or two. There's so much we can set aside, and just enjoy the view, just enjoy the view.
Pardon me, I was in your chair.
Hey. I guess the first thing that I'm always filled with when I stand here is gratitude. I'm grateful for the energy of this place. I'm grateful for the ministry. You know, when Ken was speaking, I thought, I want to go to his church. I'd also like to have his arms. I was just realizing the special gifts, you know. I'd like to have Steve's voice. Jonesy, the calm, you know. Bass players, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but every other instrument, like a guitar, you wince, you grimace. Bass players, it could be fast, it could be slow. It's great, great. Obviously an expression of just such a calm spirit. Nina, just such an open heart and so naturally compassionate. And Scott, this morning, gave me the only lesson I need in life. I mentioned to him I couldn't be the drummer. I'm always offbeat. He said, drumming is really simple. You either hit or you don't. And then he said, so you're going to be right 50% of the time. Gifts. Nancy Joy. I don't know if you've ever heard her read the phone book. Whoa. Oh. Whew. So it's just a privilege. You know, look, and each and every one of you brings, the one thing I know for sure is you bring more than you think you bring. The one thing I know for sure is you're more important in this place than you think you're important. So I want to talk about spiritual centers. I'll do that again. I want to talk about spiritual essentials for troubled times. Because some of us are experiencing this as troubled times. And some of us are finding it difficult to stay centered and not to be grabbed up. And the issue has to do with what we think needs to happen to make things better. And normally what we do is we focus on the what we think needs to happen, and we focus on the how. How are we to get there? And neither of those are helpful questions. Neither of those are helpful questions. Because it's really not a matter of what, and it's not a matter of how, it's a matter of who. It's a matter of who are we when we strive to add something that needs to be added, to choose something that needs to be chosen, to see something that needs to be seen, to know something that needs to be known. It's like one of the issues everybody knows, we say, you can't solve a problem from the level of the problem. We say that, but then we consistently try to solve the problems at the level of the problem. And the level of the problem is a matter of consciousness. We're talking about levels of consciousness. The problem exists at a certain level of consciousness. And then we strive using the tools of that level of consciousness to fix things. And of course, to some extent it works, but it only works temporarily. What we do doesn't endure. It's like many of you were around when we solved the civil rights problem. And now we're, in this city, more segregated than we've ever been. Because we were solving the problem at the same level of the problem. And the deep changes that needed to happen didn't happen. Many of us thought finally getting out of Vietnam would lead to a world without war. What was missing was a change of consciousness, not just a change in the specific on the same level. So the question is, in times of trouble, in troubling times, and frankly, anybody who lives in a body as having, from time to time, troubling times, this is not an easy trip. Sometimes I realize it actually takes great courage to incarnate. Really. It's like it takes incredibly great courage to allow oneself to enter into primary relationships. Because we know that somebody's going to leave. It's really challenging, and it takes great courage to open ourselves to love another, because to really love another, realizing we have no control. It takes great courage to enter into this frail vehicle, that we know is time limited, we know is vulnerable in a host of ways. Like courage. So if we need to attain a different level of consciousness with which to meet the troubles that confront us, both personally and as a culture and as a society, how do we do that? And I guess I wanted to focus this morning on that how. And we talk about spiritual practices, we talk about meditation, and I have a confession to make. I don't meditate. No, I rarely sit down for a period of meditation. I used to. But I discovered something about that, and that was I could attain great levels of calmness and great levels of clarity in those times when I sat down, but that's not when I needed them. I needed them when I'm out and about and when I'm in my life. I needed it when stuff is happening. I needed it when I'm caught up in my own personal dramas and in my community dramas. And it got a little bit unwieldy to say, just a minute, I'll close my eyes for 20 minutes and get back to you. So if that's so, how, this is the question I ask myself, how can I make meditative practice a part of my daily living? How can I open to those levels when I need them? When I'm stressed, when I'm not relaxed, when things don't appear to be going so well, when stuff happens. And that's what I want to talk about, because I think that's in the toolbox that's called spiritual essentials. And I want to start where all spiritual practice starts, and that's where we are. Teacher after teacher after teacher after teacher says you begin where you are. Where you are, where I am at any given moment is the perfect place to start, and in fact, it's the only place to start. So the question is, how do I get into where I am? Because much of the time, I'm not even here. My wife often says, "Where are you?" Darned if I know is my answer. That's like, what's going on? Nothing. We learned that when we were kids, when our folks said, "Where are you going?" "Nowhere." "What are you going to do?" "Nothing." Okay. It's a matter of being present. And one of the problems with being present is that we have this tendency to think of the present as some kind of frozen moment. If I'm present, that's... But present is a process. Present is a process that keeps moving. It doesn't... You know, they say you can't step into the same river twice. I'm convinced you can't step into the same river once. It's never the same river. It's always flowing. What do you mean the same river? Things are always moving. Things are always relating. Things are always in process. There is the present moment process. So how do you get into this present moment process, which essentially is presenting? Well, you begin with what you got. And right now, you got a body. So without closing your eyes, without changing anything, I invite you to be aware of your body, because most of the time, we're acting as if we don't have one. Unless it hurts, unless something feels especially good, we're unconscious of our bodies. When's the last time you thought about your right foot? No, I'm serious. When's the last time you thought about your left elbow? I invite you to look into your body right now. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to do anything different. You can do it wherever you are, because wherever you are, you're going to find your bodies with you. I didn't do it. So just as you're sitting there, part of the present, part of presenting is being present with your body. Just being aware. If there's any place where there's stress or tension, if there's any place of particular calmness, just be aware. There's something very special that happens with simple, gentle awareness. And be aware of your mind. Mind is this marvelous mechanism. So many traditions have a tendency to say, calm your mind or get out of your mind, and I've given that up. My mind does what it does, and my mind is always judging. It's what the mind does. It's a survival mechanism. It's a survival mechanism associated with a particular body, and its function is our survival. Its function is to keep us safe. And so from the beginning of human consciousness, that individual ego mind meets the world through judgment. We normally think of judgment as negative judgment, like don't judge. Well, positive judgment is just as much a judgment as negative judgment. And if you just examine what's going on in your mind right now, it's doing that. It's doing that in terms of what you see. It's doing that in terms of what you hear. It's doing that in terms of what you remember. It's doing that in terms of what you yearn for. Our minds are great all by themselves. They automatically practice our problems. Really. Our minds love that because remember, they're trying to keep us safe. These are things we got to watch out for. And automatically, we don't have to do anything. And our minds will do that. Want to find out what's bothering you? Stop talking for a few minutes and just listen to your mind. It'll tell you. The mind does not automatically practice solutions. The mind automatically practices problems because The mind is a construct that is to tell us when there are problems in the way that we have to avoid or that we have to adjust or that we have to contend with. So rather than trying to get our mind to do something other than what it's doing, we need to thank our mind for what it's doing and what it is. And not try to get it to do something else. The mind knows only through contrast. You know, it doesn't know up without down. It doesn't know sweet without bitter. It doesn't know easy without difficult. You know that. If everything were just easy, we'd never know it. If everything was sweet, we wouldn't know it. We'd have nothing to compare it to. So can we allow our mind to do what it does and not try to get it to do something other than what it does? I mean, yes, we can give it things. Listen, I'd like you to think right now of this affirmation, or I'd like you to repeat this mantra. We can do that. But as soon as we stop doing that, the mind's going to go. And what if we just decide, okay, I don't mind. Let the mind do what it does. I don't need to ask it to be any different any more than I need to ask my hand to be different than it is. Any more than I need to ask my body to be different than it is in this very moment. Right now, this is how it is. Attend, because that's part of our present. And our present is everything we receive in sensations. Everything I see, everything I hear, everything I touch, everything I taste, everything I smell. All that is part of being present. To really ground ourselves in the process of the present, to be conscious of that as often as possible. And then to notice, to begin to notice that actually there's somebody in here listening to the voice of the mind. There's somebody in here receiving the sensations of the body. There's somebody in here aware of the feelings. You know, because every feeling has some thought associated with it and some physical sensation associated with it. Every physical sensation has some thought associated with it and some feeling associated. It could be a big feeling, little feeling, big thought, little thought. But that's a matrix, that's a complex. They go together. It's part of what we find in the process of the present. And then we find there's somebody listening. Who's listening here? Look. Are you aware in this moment that you are looking at the world through two holes in your head? No, I'm serious. Are you aware that you are hearing in this moment through two other holes in your head? I mean, most of us are not conscious of that because there's something else going on. There's a part of each of us that I call the witness. There's somebody witnessing. There's somebody witnessing the mind, but the one who is witnessing is actually not the mind. The one who's witnessing has a mind, but is not limited by that mind. The one who's witnessing has a body, but is not limited by that body, is not defined by that body. The one who's witnessing has feelings, but is bigger than feelings. It is bigger than any particular feeling. The one who's listening actually a lot of times isn't even aware of the body. But to come into the present moment, to begin here, to ground ourselves, we invite that witness to be aware. And then we allow ourselves to be aware of the witness. Because the witness is different. The witness is bigger. The witness is more inclusive. The witness is more expansive. I don't know how many of you can see. It may sound like a strange question. I used to be very nearsighted. The consequence of that was whenever I got a haircut, I could never look in the mirror and see what was happening. I never thought about it, a lot of years. Get cataract surgery, and all of a sudden, I can see distance perfectly, better than I ever have in my entire life. Most of the consequences of that have been very positive. Seeing myself while I was getting a haircut proved to be not a particularly positive experience. First of all, there was very little hair to cut. But more than that, I was looking at an old guy in the mirror. I was looking at this face and going, wow. Because the one who's looking, like the witness in here is not, yes, it has this face, but it's actually not identified with this face. How old is that part of you? If you go, okay, the outside is this age, for better or for worse, but how old is the one who's looking? And who is that one? Like this body has a name. Well, is that the same name as the witness? I think it's the same name as the witness when the witness is looking at what it receives from the body and from the mind and from the feelings. But the witness is also receiving from a far greater self, source, aspect. And even now, as you listen, aware of the part that's witnessing, you can also be aware of that witness being held in a greater consciousness. Oh, you might call it a greater self, you might call it a higher self, or you might just be aware of an expansive one. And as you become aware of that expansive one, you might naturally become aware of energies which are flowing from that one, from that I. Because they're energies of profound acceptance. They're energies of incredible love. They're energies of radiant blessing. And the witness, when that part of us, the one who's listening, the one who's receiving all the sensory inputs, all the emotional inputs, all the mental inputs, becomes aware of itself and then becomes aware of that which is behind it. In the moment, one moves from presenting to presencing. And that blessing and that love and that acceptance simply channels through the witness to the body, to the mind, to the emotions. What the ego craves more than anything else, it cannot give itself. What the ego craves more than anything else, another ego cannot give it. What the ego craves more than anything else is to know it is loved unconditionally in this moment, right now. What the ego craves is to know that it is accepted unconditionally in this moment. And that greater energy that channels through the witness can embrace the mind, not trying to get the mind to be any different than it is, but embrace it. Yes, this is my mind. A wonder. Can embrace all the sensations. Can embrace all the feelings. And something happens. Something happens when our presenting awakens as a presencing. And that is what we naturally bring to the world is fuller. It's different. What we naturally bring to ourselves is fuller and it's different. What we are remembering. You know, if we seek responses to the issues and the conflicts that we find around us and within us, that's the consciousness that we need. Even now, you can be aware of the stream of love that flows from that greater self through the witness, embracing the preciousness of your ego. And in that, the body can breathe such a sigh of relief. Because through that acceptance and through that love and through that blessing, responses to our world shift. We're no longer trying to prove ourselves right and someone else wrong. We're striving to find the rightness even in what we consider to be totally unright with our egos. We look and wonder what part of the other needs to be embraced. Where's their pain? Because somebody who's caught in anger and somebody who's caught in fear and somebody who's caught in violence is hurting. And I do not mean to excuse acts of violence. I just mean to wonder about finding the common ground. Because within them too is a witness. Within them too is that greater self. How can we help us all remember The Hindu tradition, as well as ancient Kabbalah, imagines that this is not the first world to be created. There were, depending on the tradition, either 5 or 6 previous worlds, and they destroyed themselves. And each time, it's an experiment. And right now, it doesn't look like this experiment is going real well. And the nature of the experiment is this, and that is, can the one manifest as the many and still remember it's one? Can the one manifest as the many and still remember it's one? All the difficulties in the world we experience are reflections of the unwillingness or inability to remember that we're one. Being totally convinced that we are separate, that reality is fragmented, that there's right and wrong, true and false, and we got to get rid of the wrong and rid of the false and rid of the bad guys. Feeling separate from our environment, feeling separate from our trees, feeling separate from our seas, feeling separate from our whales. What's happening now in the whale communication? It's a communication to us. And it's a communication that's far clearer than language could ever be. And the communication is saying, look what you are doing. And it's almost like the earth speaking. And the challenge is to try to fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it. And we got to remember, it's not a what, it's not a how, it's a who. How can we realize ourselves as the beings who are able to remember, and in our remembering are able to help others remember? And every time we find ourselves collapsing into that separateness and fragmentation, we can go, first I have to present myself. And then I have to presence myself. And then I have to speak. And then I have to act. And then I have to be. I am so grateful to be able to share such realities with all of you in this wonderful place, because I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm glad to be in this with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Ted. I love that we have the chance to bathe in your wisdom. Thank you for being present with us and presencing with us. And thank you to each of you being present with us and presencing with each other. Beautiful community. Now's the time in our service where we have the opportunity to give. We are so thankful for every gift given so generously in this community. Gifts of resources, gifts of service, gifts of financial contribution that demonstrate our commitment to this ministry and this message. It's a heartfelt thanks that we give each of you.
Thank you for your love and more, gifts untold, shelter shelter from the cold. When I'm feeling sad or lonely, let me know I'm not the only one who's ever been here. Thank you for your gifts and more. That's what I thank you for. Through all my noise, you've given me the choice. Though I complain, oh, sometimes about the cold rain, you pick me up where I can listen for a while to just the things that I've been missing in my life. Thank you for your gifts and more. That's what I thank you for. Thank you for. Thank you for your gifts and more. That's what I thank you for.
Let's bless these gifts together. We give today, we share today, we spark circulation today. And for all these gifts given, we know that they're multiplied and that we are blessed for all that we are, all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive. And so it is. Thank you, ushers. I appreciate your service. Every Sunday, we love to have the opportunity to welcome anyone who might be visiting us for the first time. So if you are here for the first time, if you just put your hand in the air, we'll give you some applause. Anyone here for the first time? Yes, nice to see you. Good morning. We're so glad you're here. Good morning. Good morning. We want to welcome anyone who might be joining us for the first time online as well. Hello, Facebook community. In the seat back in front of you, you'll find a newcomer's information card as well as a stay in touch card. If you are new today or newish, you want to put your contact information on there, and that will result in a couple emails each month. And also to the left of the door as you leave the sanctuary, there is a DVD that lets you know a little bit more about our community and a card that presents our vision and our mission on here. And one of those supporting ideas is that we welcome people from all spiritual traditions or from no spiritual tradition whatsoever into every activity of our community. We're so glad you're here. And you can certainly join us in Friendship Hall for some refreshments after service. We have several announcements about things happening here in our community, and for details specific to each of those, you can always visit our welcome and information station. Today's beautiful flowers are dedicated by Bob and Phyllis Franks in recognition of their 35th anniversary. Bob and Phyllis, you want to stand up? Where are you? There you are. There you are. Well done. Adult education continues this Tuesday, August 7th at 7 p.m. with Keys to the Kingdom. This 7-week course is designed to help students identify and change limited beliefs about abundance, happiness, and success. Not a course about simply getting more money or accumulating more things, thank God. Keys is a guide to establishing a spiritual foundation of true abundance and creating a life in greater harmony with spiritual law. Learn more about this tithing course following services on Sunday, August 5th, facilitated by Reverend Nina Clark and Reverend Nancy Merrill. Today? Oh, I guess that's today. Yeah. Thank you for presencing me here today. UIL's Health and Wellness Ministry invites you to join Nancy Joy Callahan on Wednesday, August 8th at 7 p.m. for The Body is the Temple of the Soul. This is a lighthearted event that combines easy-does-it movements and follow the leader format, wear comfortable clothing, and bring a water bottle and a mat or a blanket. And please join Rabbi Ted for 2 events. Next Saturday, Kabbalah, Energies of Hebrew Letters. Each Hebrew letter describes a way universal energy manifests in the material world. In this workshop, Rabbi Ted will explore several powerful letters and celebrate how we embody their energies. And on the 18th, Spiritual Saturdays, share the healing space of the traditions of the Jewish Sabbath as understood and interpreted by Rabbi Ted and musicians Jenny and Jack. Also on the 18th is UIL's small group ministry presenting Creative Cafe. Using wood to paper, glass to canvas, string to yarn, and more, share and learn as we activate our creative potentials. Bring your creative tools, supplies, and creative minds, facilitated by Gloria Pulliam and Nelia Fajardo. And join Dr. Richard in a fun experience he's calling Eternal Expressions Choir. Formed for the celebration of Grandparents' Day on September 9th, this show choir of seniors and their friends will raise the roof with reggae to rock to rap. Awesome, right? It's going to be so much fun. Please register and arrive ready to dance. We ask for commitments to the full rehearsal schedule, which starts next Sunday following second service. And a bit of housekeeping, as UIL's board continues to develop win-win policies specific to those benefiting from the support of service animals, please be reminded not to engage the service animals. That means don't do this. Oh, you're so cute, come here, I want to pet you, you're so awesome. We don't do that. As much as we may want to do that, I know I always want to do that, we don't do that. Service animals are here working to support their time with us. And finally, please be reminded that UIL's small group ministry offers drop-in groups throughout the week. Grab a note card on your way out. All are welcome. And Nelia Fajardo is the Artist of the Month. We invite you to peruse the many new items of inspiration and education in the gift shop that are new just recently. It's really quite impressive. Thank you, Nelia. Yes. These and all good things happening at Unity in Lynnwood can be found on your printed program, on our Facebook page, or the calendar page of our website. If you haven't been there recently, it's www.unityinlynnwood.org. And now we're going to stand and sing the peace song together.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be my moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous sound. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin
And now if there's a first name of anyone that you know that's on your heart that could benefit from soaking in, savoring in this energy of love and support, let's go ahead and speak that first name now. And to those mentioned by the heart or by the human tongue, today we want to say to them, that which resides within you is ample to all that lies before you. We know that for them. And now let's speak our inspiring closing words together. There is one power and one presence in, through, and around all creation. So we go forth as the eyes of divine love, as the tongues of divine wisdom, as the hands of divine sufficiency, and the bold and ready hearts of divine life. Have a great Sunday.